All right, round 2 on this one. Jeez, some headphones stopped working. I'm gonna go over a PragerU video because I'm super lazy, and the videos I really want to work on require more effort. Oh. All right, let's see what these scallywags are up to. Rewriting history. What the hell? True. True. Okay. Oh, the left is wrong. Okay, let's see. Why? What is with these fucking borders they have here? Like, oh, am I contributing to this problem? Nope. No, this is just them. Okay. The 4:3 aspect ratio is beautiful. So far, so good. Because they were slavers and they didn't believe in a democracy. The way we currently understand it today, the idea of like mass voting really only like started manifesting in like the, I guess, late 19th, early 20th century. Like I think it was kind of around like World War I, World War II. That I'm a little more iffy on, but like the idea that they didn't think that anybody should just be able to vote is not that controversial. We don't. They okay. Like, is this technically true? Sure, but the limits in that place would be a constitution that they created, right? Where you have rules that decide what you can and can't do based off that majoritarian rule. The reason we have elected representatives as we do is because we don't want to, one, have everyone vote on like minutia every single thing every single fucking day, right? You want to have elected representatives who can help make those decisions in a responsible manner for you. With the way you don't want to like just vote, like have majority rule to do like every basic little thing, is that functional purpose, and also some of what she's getting at here, where you wouldn't want like 51% of people deciding like to disenfranchise 49% of people, you know. It says nothing to do with the Electoral College. This has to do with why you'd have a constitution to respect rights and separation and all the shit that we currently have. Uh-huh. Yeah, because they outlined it with certain freedoms, and you should want an overwhelming majority to justify changing it, i.e., it errs on the side of like this is something everyone really wants to do, which would hopefully be good. Now, what you said is sort of correct. Like, hold on. What triggered my interest here? Pure democracy, big branches. Yeah, so she's kind of getting into what I was saying here. Hold on. They did this because there was, I think it's called like the New Jersey Compromise, if I remember correctly. Um, and initially, you had big states, which were not just slave states or North states or whatever. You had big states like Virginia, New York, Massachusetts, which were the most populated states, who wanted to just do a straight, like, base layer House of Representatives system. And you had small states who, because it was sort of like a confederacy, they kind of viewed the founding of the country as basically they were all different. Each state was basically its own country with like a joint defense compact. Was basically how it was viewed under that federal system. Now it quickly disintegrated from that, but so this is just talking about how we have our House of Representatives and our Senate, and the Electoral College gets derived from that. So. Mm-hmm. Yep. So what she's getting at here is correct in how it works now, but it's funny that they include like a preamble of like the history of why we have this, why we have our constitution. They did this whole preamble, but what she's neglecting to mention is that the founding fathers initially anticipated that like a given region that has like a house member or whatever would send their house rep, not necessarily their house rep, but their district that gets a house rep. They would send an elector, which would just be someone who they trust, who they think is knowledgeable. They would send them to then choose who's president, and basically you'd have all these different I'll say districts or whatever, who would then send their representative forward, and then their representative would then make that informed decision with all the other representatives talking and negotiating. So it's more like you vote for your representative in the Electoral College, who will then go and make that informed decision. So you're voting for that. Once again, this was like a very localized version, and it quickly tailspinned within like 30 years into like federal politics, how we know it today, where each state turned into winner take all because the states were allowed to determine how they gave out their electoral votes. So it quickly became beneficial to not have your votes split down the middle, but instead to like go all in one direction or all in the other direction. So it's funny when you're talking about the history, you just want to leave out that very important thing. Like it's Madison like lost his shit and tried like passing like another amendment to like fix this like bastardization of the Electoral College, which was not how he intended, because it turns into like a worse mob rule. This is not true. So this is like a common talking point that's sort of trotted out. Like, do you want people to only campaign in California and New York? Well, this is commonly thrown out by conservatives, ignoring that California, the most populous state, and New York, the fourth most populous state. The middle two are Texas, which is the second most, and Florida, which is the third most populous state, tend to go Republican for a variety of reasons. They're both kind of cusping towards blue, at which point this whole system would blow up in their face because of its winner take all system. But like them saying it would create a national politics is wrong. You wouldn't campaign nationally. It just turns into this two-party system because of its winner take all. But like if you live in California and New York, you don't get any attention paid to you. Instead, only the swing states get paid attention to. These flyover areas, as they're derisively referred to because no one really lives there and they're not really worth campaigning for, are usually solid in one direction or another. Only swing states, I did the math on this a while ago, only swing states are the ones that get visited, and they'd have to be pretty significant swing states, right? The average size of a swing state is about 12 or 13 electoral votes. California being the biggest at, is it 50? I think it's 50 something, and Texas having 38. New York is like 27, and I think Florida is 27. But anyway, the point being that that's not how it works, and it just intend just makes the election focused around the swing states instead of like national. And like a third of the country, like 2/3 of the country, I think lives on these coastal states, but like a third of the country is like inland and rural areas. Or I guess I think it's 2/3 of the country lives in cities and 1/3 lives in rural areas. What's funny is this region she identified is like the swing region, sort of. I mean, it's not exactly like that. There's like there's this cool book. It's like the 11, I think it's 11 or 12 regions of New York, and it talks about how like there were like these broad coalitions of like 11 different like areas or whatever, and the area that actually is like the determining one is like it carves out an area from like here, like New York, parts of Pennsylvania, like the left, the west side of Pennsylvania, cuts through. Basically, it's Appalachia. It's this whole Midwest Appalachia region. This is what's like actually like the swing district. The other ones like tend to fall heavily into Democrat or heavily into Republican. This is actually the only swing like region that really matters. Florida's kind of weird because it's part deep south and then part like I think it's like New Spain or something weird like that. Is what they call it. Fuck, I wish I had the map pulled up. Hold on. Let's see if we can get it. 11 regions of America. Oh, hopefully we get it. Oh, hopefully give me the good map. Okay, there you go. This is what it looks like. So it's this greater Appalachia region that is like the swing region. And you see that bumps into Ohio, bumps into Pennsylvania, it gets this whole area. This one tends to be the most swingy, but everything else is like pretty decided. New France is kind of weird, but like there's another map that like colors this part, but the reason Florida is kind of a swing state is because it's half deep south, which goes hard Republican, and it's half like southern Miami, part of the Spanish Caribbean. Yeah, anyway, but like this is basically a bunch of Northeast people who like moved to Florida because it's warm. So like that's why Florida is a swing state, because it has these like 50-50 of each coalition. That's how a lot of the swing states work, right? Like Pennsylvania is the same way, where I think it's here on the map. Like you notice this bottom left quadrant is Greater Appalachia, and then you have the Midlands region that takes up most of the other state, and then when you get to like the top right of the state, you get some Yankeedom in there. But that's why it works out like that. But like Greater Appalachia and like I'm pretty sure it's the Greater Appalachia is the swing one when he has a separate video where he goes over it. What's funny is she's probably going to ignore the flip side of this, where like technically you could like win the Electoral College with like, I think it's like 18 or like 20% of the vote. Let's see. You can technically win the Electoral College with, I mean, technically you get like one vote in each state. Minimum popular vote to win Electoral College. Because Electoral president could, oh, here we go. So 23% of the popular vote could technically, like states representing, I guess, 23% of the popular vote could choose the president. Like that's how stupid our system is right now. You could have like a 70 to 20 like advantage and lose basically, or that math is wrong. Jesus Christ, I don't want to hear that dumb bitch. Maybe that'll be another one because I hate this lady too. Whatever, I'll look at that later. Yep. Oh no. Okay, so the reason this is stupid is because when you look at like an electoral map, like there will only be swing state. Like she's correct that swing states do change a little bit over time, right? But she's kind of ignoring there is that the parties like switch. Like Texas going from Democrat to Republican is a byproduct of like the Southern strategy, which slowly shifted Republican states, or sorry, Democratic-controlled states in the South like, to Republicans through racism. Because why not? So she's correct about that, but like it doesn't matter that swing states change over time. Like the ones that are swing states change. Like Virginia, she's correct, was part of the South, and now because it's like a giant metro area and it's grown out in that way and has like large African American population and a lot of people who move down there because it puts them in the metro area for DC. So you end up with a lot of people who come from around the country and create this what's the word I'm looking for? This more cosmopolitan state that still has like the dregs in the more southern parts of the state. But like in each given election, there will be well-known swing states, particularly nowadays, right? You can have Florida because it's huge, like toll, and like Republicans do a lot to like suppress Democratic voters in this state. But like you're always going to have swing states, even though swing states change. It doesn't mean that like New York, I think Well, I guess they used to be Republican until Southern Strategy, and then they switched, but we still have some Republican governors. Local politics is a little more complicated, but like electoral politics, like it does tend to get, national electoral politics tends to get like much more regionalized, and the shifts are not going to be that great, and are like it's easy to like conflate like history a little bit here, but it's not like it's nowhere near as clear cut as she's trying to make it seem. Like, oh, you're all swing states in your own special way. Like, no, Montana was never a swing state. A lot of those little fucking places are never going to be swing states. It's going to be states that have, like, a closer to 50-50 divide and a significant number of electoral votes, you know? Like, that's what it's going to be. Like, New Hampshire is technically a swing state, but it probably won't matter.
Yeah, but we'll talk later. Okay, sounds good, Mom. Alright, bye.
No, it's not. This is the exact basis of like voter suppression efforts, right? They're not like stealing votes is such a weird way to put it. Like you don't have to steal votes, and like I guess it means like yeah, you'd have to steal them in these specific places instead of these other places. But like look at Hillary Clinton, right? She won by 3 million votes in terms of popular vote, but like lost in those states. And the reason she lost in a lot of those swing states is if you can look at the entire. Let's see, hold on. Governor, this is actually the one I don't know. Pennsylvania. So the 3 states that gave Donald Trump the presidency were Tom Wolf. Let's see who was before him. Preceded by Tom Corbett. Oh, there you go. Okay, so it was governor from 20. Okay, so he was governor from 2011 until 2015. He was a Republican. So all 3 of these swing states, very interesting. Michigan, where the fuck are you? You have Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, which were the 3 states, if you have their electoral votes, if they go to Hillary Clinton, she wins instead, were controlled by Republicans who, in general, try and do voter suppression efforts. Now, each individual voter suppression effort might only tag like a few thousand voters, or tens of thousands of voters, or something to that effect. Or when you're talking like felony disenfranchisement in a state like Florida, it'll be like 1.4 million people. But in those states that are relatively close, you can have Republicans who institute like voter ID laws, voter suppression efforts, throwing out registered voters, all this weird shit that they can get up to that make it harder for a Democrat to win, because their goal is to have a disproportionate effect on Republicans over Democrats. So interestingly enough, Republicans took over those 3 governorships in 2010 relating to it's called Project REDMAP. I feel like it just sounds like a conspiracy theory unless like you fucking look at it. This thing, I don't know if I'm gonna upload like a little document with this one, but Project REDMAP is basically the Republicans won massively in 2010 as backlash to like Obama, and they decided to they gerrymandered basically everything they could, states, whatever, and they passed laws to make it less likely for Democratic people to vote than Republican people to vote. Everything they could to give themselves a little bit of edge. So they did this exact thing she's talking about, where the Republicans managed to, win an election in 2010, and they did everything they could to like fuck over elections going forward, which they arguably did. Like people don't talk about how like 2016 was stolen. They're like, oh, it's a shame Hillary Clinton didn't go to Michigan and Wisconsin or Pennsylvania or whatever. And it's like, well, yes, I'm sure that might have made a difference, because any little difference would have worked for her. But like all these things are like, oh, poor tactical choices, poor strategy, poor this, poor that, and there were giant mistakes our campaign made, and some degree of hubris or whatever. But you know what was really undemocratic and like really did it? When Republicans passed massive voter suppression in a lot of these places, when they threw out a bunch of voter registrations. Like I think it was Michigan. It was Michigan Republicans throwing out registrations. It was either Michigan or Wisconsin. Federal judge throws out Republican lawsuit against Michigan. I think it's this one. Redistricting Commission. I don't think it's that one. Fuck. Maybe it's Wisconsin. Oh, there it is. So a judge ruled that 230,000 Wisconsin voter registration should be thrown out. This was just like this fucking year, right? Or I guess last year, December 14th, 2019, where they did that, or they tried to do this. A Wisconsin judge ordered I'm sure if we look up that judge who will have been appointed by Republicans, and they tend to be a lot more partisan at that level as well. But like all of this fuckery to skew these elections is specifically what they did, which is what she's talking about here. But it's like, no, you now just need to put your efforts into cheating into these specific places to have like a very minuscule result in like significant swing places, which in 2016 was successful, hence the hellscape we're living in today. Once again, not hard to do. Republicans have done it for decades now. Like, I don't know a whole lot about the 2000 election, but I'm sure there was some voter suppression or whatever fucking efforts that made the difference there as well, ignoring the Supreme Court fuckery and I forget his name, the Roger Stone fuckery too. All the things to try and stop a recount from happening. This is like such a weird thing. Yeah. Oh yeah, they would matter if you steal them here instead of stealing. Like, yeah, you could steal a vote anywhere, but now you just need to steal votes in specific places. Like, one, stealing votes is not like, okay, a part of the flaw here is like, one, fraudulent voting is not really a problem in this country right now. Not that it couldn't be, but it's not. This is not a real threat. And like her thing, like, well, now they have to steal in these specific places, so they just know that they need to ignore the entire state of California and just focus on swing states. Okay, sounds like your efforts get to be focused. So you don't need to steal 3.1 million votes across 50 states. You need to steal 50, I think it was like 50 or 80,000 votes across 3 states. That sounds easier to me by what? Fucking 31 to whatever? Well, let's see what it was. Clinton lost Wisconsin, PA by 80,000 votes. I'm super lazy right now. Oh, there it is. Yeah, okay, so I got it. Why voting matters, Supreme Court edition. A shift of fewer than 80,000 votes in 3 states, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, or 0.06% of all votes cast would have made the difference. So she's functionally trying to argue that, like, yeah, it would be harder to steal 3.2 million votes or 3.1 million. Let's see how much it actually was by 2016 election. I think it was over 3 million votes. I think it was like 3.1 million. 2, 5. Okay, it's a little less than 3 million votes. So yeah, Trump would have to steal, or Republicans or whoever would have to steal 3 million votes over 50 states instead of 80,000 votes over 3 states. Give me a motherfucking break. This is just brainworm shit. No, it doesn't. Like, I love how that last thing, like, you just like made that up because it made you feel good, and it just hits on like conservative like propaganda triggers. It's really great about like the mass voter fraud. That's the only reason. Oh, I didn't turn my light on this whole time. So I had this weird lighting thing going on. It's okay. No one watches my videos anyway. It's okay. It does not encourage coalition building. It encourages partisanship, as we see. Protects against the tyranny of the majority. You just get a tyranny of the minority, and it doesn't really do this, as we discussed with that one article about 23% of the population could do it. We can be too. This is diversity right here. That's the diverse electorate right there. Okay, well, that was fun. That was actually a pretty easy one to go through. Nothing there really surprised me, except their weird... This protects against voter fraud, which is like the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. But wasn't expecting that one. The rest of it very fun now. All right, outro.